Hey everyone, I wanted to start a new series here of shogi tactics. These are just going to be really simple tactics that occur throughout the game, starting in the opening and through the middle game. I already have an app that I use to study mating patterns and in-game tactics, so I can recommend that. I'll give a pointer to it in the description. But I don't have anything that I can use to study that will teach these kind of simple tactics that trip me up in the just while playing the game. I think if you play enough games, you learn these. But maybe I can speed the process up a little bit if I focus on these tactical mistakes. And by showing them to you, I'm learning them myself, and maybe I can help you learn these patterns too. So let's start with this one. This is a game that I played, and I'm Gote here. My opponent is Sente. He makes the first move. So I have the pieces that are on the bottom. We'll look at this from my point of view. We'll look at one mistake that I made and one mistake that my opponent made. So let's go right here. Okay, so I just played Rook takes pawn. And that actually was a mistake. And now my opponent has a good move. So it's Sente's move. And can you see what he can play in this position? Okay, pause the video if you want time to think about it. I'm giving the answer away now. So what he can do here is he can drop a pawn to this square in front of his rook. He's got a rook here supporting the pawn, and the pawn attacks the bishop. And notice that the bishop can't go anywhere. It's actually blocked in by its own pieces, so it has no moves. And so the square in front of the bishop, which is often a weak square, is only protected by the gold here. The bishop, of course, doesn't protect it. So, and the gold is overpowered by the rook. So the rook defending the pawn and the pawn attacking the bishop, and the bishop can't run. So a very simple win of a piece there. Okay, let's go on to the next one, just to show that it's not only me that makes mistakes. My opponent here, who was actually a one dot, made a mistake right here. He had just dropped his bishop. He put his bishop here. It's attacking my rook, and I retreated my rook, but actually I had a good move here. So can you find a move for Gote in this position? Okay, pause the video again if you want time to think about it. I'm going to give the answer away now. What I have here is I have rook takes knight. Yeah, that knight is sitting there on the back rank, and it's just undefended. There's the pieces next to it. The lance only goes forward. The silver only protects in a forward direction or diagonally backwards. It doesn't protect on the side. And the gold similarly protects straight backwards, but it does not protect diagonally backwards. So that's a loose knight there. And when I take the knight, I can also promote my rook to a dragon. So that's a doubly good move. Here's another example. This is from a game that I played against Lesser Kai, a weak shogi engine that comes with the Shogi Dokuro program. It's Gote's turn. That was Lesser Kai, and I was Sente. So Lesser Kai pushed the pawn forward and attacked my bishop. Now I recognized my bishop was under attack, but I was excited about the prospects of an attack along the edge here. His king is there, and I've got my rook and lance lined up there. So that's what I was going for. And I just took the pawn with my lance. So that's with check. So he has to respond to that. He moved the king back. Then I advance my lance and promote that to a gold, and that is also with check. And so the king steps back, and then I drop my knight, hoping to support the attack. But that was just a little bit too much. That was not with check anymore, and actually he just took my bishop, which has been hanging this whole time, but the other moves were with check. So he took it at the first chance, and then I'm just losing my attack. It was not strong enough to suffer the loss of a bishop. But actually I had a good move here, so let's play out the game from this point. So it's my turn. My bishop is under attack. I need to trade it off with tempo to set up this tactic. So let's go ahead and put that on the board. I just take his gold, he takes back. So giving up a bishop for a gold is a bit of a sacrifice, but it's this position that I want you to find the tactic. So it's my turn. And so I'll give you a couple of hints. One is keep in mind that you have pieces over here that you can drop on the board. You've got a silver, a knight, and 2 pawns. And also keep in mind that even though I've been attacking on the edge, there's other things going on in the position. So see if you can survey the whole board there and see if you can find a good move for me here. Okay, pause the video if you want time to think about it. I'm going to give the answer away now. The correct move here, the best move here, is the knight drop to, what is that, 8D. The thing is that that's a fork. It hits both the rook and the bishop. And the rook and the bishop are the 2 most powerful pieces in the game. So that's a big fork. And you know, I had just given up my bishop or traded it off for a gold. But if I can win one of those pieces for a knight, that is a good transaction for me. So something to think about whenever you see your opponent's bishop and his rook lined up on the same rank, and they're only just 1 file apart like that. Just look to see if there's a knight drop possible to fork the 2 pieces. Well, anytime you see 2 valuable pieces like a king and a rook or a king and a bishop that are lined up like that. Okay, let's check out the next one. This next problem, I'm not sure if it's a tactic or not, but it's a question of how to best continue an attack. So let's, just to give you some context, let's play forward a few moves. So I have the pieces at the bottom of your screen here. I push forward with my pawn along the rook file, typical way to open up a file. He takes back, and then before I take back immediately, I have a bishop here, and I drop the bishop to harass his rook here and chase it away. And he moved to the side. I wasn't sure this was going to work because maybe he could have come forward there. But anyway, this is I'm playing lesser Kai, and it's not always making the best moves. So anyway, I take the pawn with my rook, and then he steps forward with his silver. And then my next move here, I kind of let the attack slip away. So there's one really good move in this position. Can you find the best move here to continue the attack? Okay, pause the video again if you want to think about it. The move that I need to play here, and let's get to this again. The move I need to play here is the pawn drop. If I drop a pawn there, then I'm threatening on the next move to promote it. I'll step forward to this square and promote the pawn to a gold with a rook behind it and the gold inside the camp. That's just a devastation. I'm wreaking devastation. The pawn is supported by both the rook and even the bishop. So that would be the right way to continue. It's also kind of illustrates an important idea. You often want to drop a piece. You know, your target is actually the next square, right? Your target is this square on the second rank, but you often want to drop a piece here at the square before that, just in front of it, so that you can move it forward, because when you move it forward, then you can promote. So common idea in shogi. Okay, let's go forward. There's one more interesting exchange here in this game I wanted to show you. In this position, my attack has gone astray. I didn't play the strongest move before, and now I'm suffering a bit, but I'm still trying to continue to press the attack. I step forward with my silver and bring my silver up 1 square, and then lesser Kai pushes the pawn here to attack my silver and drive it back, and I just retreated. But actually there is another option in this position, so your challenge is to see if you can figure out what else I could have played here. Okay, pause the video if you want some time to think about it. I'm going to give the answer away now. You know, the bishop does have limited mobility. It has to move backwards on the diagonal. It can't move sideways, and it goes forward. Well, it goes to any of the 3 squares in front of it. The problem appears to be that there's a pawn there in the way. So the clever idea here is I can actually just push that pawn forward. I can sacrifice it. I mean, I'm attacking the rook, so he's going to react probably with rook takes. And he can play that because the silver supports the rook there, even though I've got a rook on that file. But then I can move my silver forward. I can move my silver forward after sacrificing the pawn, and then with the rook behind the silver, I'm attacking both his rook and his knight here, and the rook is going to have to move out of the way. So it's worth the sacrifice of a pawn there just to be able to move my silver forward instead of having to retreat in this position. Here's another tactic that popped up in one of my games. I couldn't find the game, and so this is kind of a contrived position. I just moved the pieces forward to recreate the conditions as I remember them. But my opponent here has just moved the knight forward to this square 1c. And so it's my turn to move, and I have a good move here. Can you find the best move for me in this position? Okay, I'm going to give the answer away now. Pause the video if you want some time to think about it. So the right move here is just to drop the pawn on the knight. Notice that this pawn was not my pawn. That was my opponent's pawn. I had pushed a pawn forward and sacrificed it to get kind of a half-open file here. So I no longer have a pawn on this file, but I had a pawn in hand from some other exchanges that occurred during the game. And when my opponent moved his knight out, when he played this move, then he blocked the lance's view of the square 1d. So now I can just drop a pawn there. It's legal because I don't have another pawn on that file, on that column. And the knight has nowhere to run. So the lack of mobility of pieces is a common theme in a lot of these tactics in shogi. You know, pieces can easily get trapped. So that's one theme here. Notice that the forward direction for that knight is blocked by my pawn, which is defended by my rook. So he can't, well, he can take there, but I will take back. So he's just losing that knight. And the other thing I wanted to point out is that this square is actually a very bad square for the knight. If you can, you would rather bring the knight to this square, because from that square at least it has two forward moves. And then the second thing wrong with that move is that it blocks the lance. So the lance no longer has a view of the rest of that file. So it's a move you should view with suspicion if you ever find yourself tempted to play a move like that. Okay, let's go on to the final example here. This is the final tactic I wanted to show you. It's a more complicated tactic, but it brings together some of the ideas that I've talked about. Maybe you can find it if you look for it. Let's see. So this is from the game that I just played, my game 3, and I posted that last week. So I'm at the bottom here. Let's see. I pushed forward with my pawn. My opponent jumped forward with his knight. His knight just came to the 3c square, and right here is where the tactic first pops up. And this tactic occurs at various spots during the game, but this is the first opportunity I have to play it. And it's not just a single move tactic, it's a couple of moves deep, but all the moves are forcing. So if you hit on the right idea, you might be able to find this one. Okay, pause the video if you want some time to think about it. Once again, this is about taking advantage of the limited mobility of the pieces, starting with these two silvers here. And what you do is you first drop a pawn here to hit this silver. And the silver can't easily run away. It can't go backwards. It's two diagonal squares behind it are covered by its own pieces. And it can't come forward. This square is covered, and this square is covered, and the pawn is defended. But he can take the pawn, and that's what he should do. This is my opponent. Should take the pawn. This is not how the game went. This is just after I discovered the tactic, I made this variation. So he takes the pawn, I take back. Oops, he takes the pawn, I take back, and then he takes again. That's why I never dropped the pawn there. I wanted to play that move during the game, but I never saw a way to make that tactic work, because it looks like I've just lost a silver and a pawn, and I've just gotten 1 silver in exchange. So looks like I just lost a pawn in that deal. I just didn't have enough force to support the pawn there. But another possibility is opened up right here. This is what you had to see after the exchanges. You can pause here if you want to look for it again. And I'm going to give the answer away now. And yes, the answer is another pawn drop. And once again, we're hitting the head of the knight. And the knight, of course, can't take that. But not only that, both of the squares in the forward direction that the knight might want to go to are protected. This one by the pawn and this one by the rook. And of course, the silver doesn't defend those squares. So the knight is just going to get lost. So that is, I'm losing a pawn, but I'm picking up a knight. I may have to give up 2 pawns for the knight, but it's still a good trade for me. Okay, so that ends this first chapter of Simple Shogi Tactics. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Bye.